Hello there and welcome to Chitted Diaries. So today's video is a part 2 of my home owning experience. If you haven't watched part 1, I will leave a link in the description box, but I basically detailed the genesis of all of this and how I was able to buy a home. So if you haven't watched that, feel free to watch it if you care, but if you aren't here to find out about how to buy a house from a Zambian perspective, it's okay, you don't have to watch it. So yeah, my old subscribers, welcome back. If you're someone who watched that previous video, welcome to this one as well. And I will issue a disclaimer once more to the new people. So I most of the time make natural hair videos. This is like a special, me doing story time, so you don't feel any pressure to subscribe if you aren't, someone who's into natural hair videos. This is like a one-off thing that I'm doing. And then 2, I ramble a lot. Okay, I ramble a lot, and if that's a pet peeve of yours, to watch people who are like disorganized or just mentally disoriented, like this video won't be for you. So at least I've issued that disclaimer and you don't have to complain. So we'll get right into it. Today's video is going to be about my experience having a mortgage and what it was like to now be a landlady as well and just owning a home. And today, I'm so sorry, and you've probably seen from how long, I have a feeling this one is going to be even far longer than the previous one. I'm trying not to make it a part 3, but like the notes I had for part 1, it was just one page. Like it was literally just one page of notes. But I have I counted 8.5 pages for part 2 because I'm in my feels about what the actual home ownership experience was. So yeah, you can buckle in. So the first point that I want to raise here, just to piggyback off of part 1, in terms of the mortgage and how it's calculated, there's so many websites where you can, even before you get a mortgage, where you can just do estimates, and all you need to know is what a lending institution's interest rate is, what the length of the repayment period is that you want to, or are willing to pay back for. So the repayment period being how long it will take for you to pay them back. Is it going to be 5 years, 10, 15, 20, 25? And as well as the amount, like the budget amount. So you just type this, just Google mortgage calculator, it's there on Google, and then just type in these amounts. So the interest rate per annum from what the lending institution is offering you, the amount or the cost or the selling price of the house, and the repayment period, and then you'll be able to know what your monthly deductions will be. So I think I'd forgotten to mention that in the previous one. And then in terms of other monthly costs going forward along with your mortgage, I had briefly touched on how home insurance is compulsory. So this is outside of your mortgage repayment period to your lending institution. Sometimes they require you to also have home insurance, and then some even go a step further, and they insure they literally insure just your mortgage, not the house, but they insure your mortgage against your life, in case you die, your beneficiaries won't lose the house. Yeah. Of course, if you unalive yourself, they're keeping your house, but if you die of natural causes, some institutions do have that insurance set up as well, which is the case for me. So if anything happens to me, my beneficiaries will get to keep the house, even though I haven't finished paying for the mortgage. So I thought I could also add that point. So the next thing is, in case, so by the way, I'm filming this part 2 a day after. So I filmed part 1 last night because this is the one weekend I've had in a really, really long time where I'm just home and have some free space. So even though the videos would be a week apart, because I don't really get a lot of views on my channel, so I can't do videos back to back. I have to give them space for people to watch. So just in case someone left comments in part 1, I haven't seen it yet because I haven't even posted part 1 yet. I haven't even edited it yet. So this part 2 is just based off of notes from my head, not off of anything that someone may have responded or commented in the previous one. If I even have comments at all, so I thought I would just say that. But anyways, just in case somebody was wondering in part 1, why my lending institution via my employer was my last resort, even though I already knew that they had the lowest interest rates to offer. Why did I start with the banks and then Zambian National Building Society? Why didn't I just go straight, to the like facility that my employer had, like why didn't I just go there? And the reason, my dear, is that if you go that route, like if you're borrowing money from an institution that lends money or that has MOUs with other lending institutions, is that you sell your soul to your employer. Okay, you literally sell your soul to your employer, and you cannot leave until you pay back this debt. If, for example, you got a mortgage and the repayment period is for 20 to or even 25 years, like you can't leave after 3 years and then go somewhere else and then continue to pay that monthly deduction that you had agreed on when you like signed up for this mortgage. Like they don't allow you to do that, because you working for them is the only way you have access to that. So once you leave, you literally have to pay off the balance of what you owe them. Thankfully, if like, for example, and like the like the example selling price that we had been using was 500,000 kwacha. If you borrowed 500,000 kwacha and it's for 20 years and you find yourself like if the interest, like the amount that you borrowed is 500,000, and then by the time you're done paying off in 20 years, like the interest that you have to pay back is maybe like an extra 1 million or 1.2 on top of the 500,000. It's not like you have to pay that full like 1.7, if that makes sense. Your loan is recalculated at the point that you leave. So if you leave after 3 years of being on this mortgage, your loan is recalculated as if you had only borrowed money for 3 years. I hope that makes sense. So of course the interest rates are far less the shorter the period is, but still, like if you don't have that money and you leave your employer, like you have to find it and pay them back, because they will not let you leave, and just have like you have to pay them back. And that's why it's dangerous to go that route if you're someone who would like to leave your employer or just find work elsewhere. Like you can't do it until you pay them back. I was aware of this, even though I knew it was my last resort, but even as I went into it, again, I have more privileges. I touched on privilege in the previous video. I had further privilege here, knowing that I had an in-house pension that I had been contributing, like even a good 3 to 4 years prior to me even getting a mortgage. So it had been building up. So I knew that I was going to be able to pay back for this mortgage, like even less than half the period of the repayment period, that I had on the mortgage, because yeah, like I had an in-house pension to cushion that. Also, if I had to leave, prior to the like 10-year period of the mortgage, like it would just offset my in-house pension, and then I can live, like scot-free without owing anybody any money. So again, that's a privilege that I had. I just thought I could mention that as something that's important further to the whole mortgage situation. Hopefully that makes sense. We're already at 8 minutes, and I've only touched on like a bit of this page, and I have 8 more pages to go. So the next thing I mentioned in the previous video is how you need to have between 20% or 30% of the selling price of a house already with you in terms of savings to cover fees. And I realize now that I failed to expand on that. And why I said you need 20% to 30% is that 15%, so 10% goes to like your lawyer for conveyancing fees, and then that extra 5% will go towards Ministry of Lands and just other miscellaneous costs. So bare minimum you need is 15% of the selling price, like extra that you just already have in savings. And then I added an extra 5% because, trust me, there's always something that you have to fix. I don't think there's anybody who's purchased a home and it was just intact, it was perfect. If you have, like, that's really, really nice, but most of the time you have to fix or just renovate or touch up on something. So you just need a little extra, especially if you want a tenant to move in or something like that. So you need that extra money already, to just touch up and fix a few things here and there. And the reason why I said 20 to 30% is if you borrow from a bank, they always retain 10%. So you need that extra 10. That's why it was 30. So I thought I would just expand on that because I didn't make it very clear in the previous one. So the next point that I want to make with regards to having a mortgage and owning a home is that, in case anybody was wondering, like, why didn't you move into the house? I have other friends, who have mortgages, who bought homes, who live in those homes, but I bought it in a different town than where I lived at the time. So I lived in Chisamba, and the home I built was in the next town. Though it wasn't too far. It was like a 20 to 25-minute drive away from where I lived and worked. But at the time, one, I didn't have a car. I didn't have a car, and I can talk about the whole car thing in another story time. But I was living in a small town, and it was literally a 10-minute walk, like not even a fast walk. It was like a nice, slow, casual 10-minute walk from my house to the office. So I was spoiled in that regard. Like I didn't have a commute. But if I moved into that house, it means I would have to commute to work. I'd have to either get on like a minibus or now have a car. And there was also like a toll gate between us, and I was like, I just didn't want those extra costs. So I was still paying my own rent, but I didn't move into my house because I lived far away. And then 5 months after buying the house, I got transferred to Chongwe, which is now like 2.5 hours away from my house. So like I couldn't even move into the house and then commute. Like it was just an impossibility. And that is why I went the tenant route. So I was like, I'm going to have rental income, via a tenant. With regards to a tenant and the rental income that I got, initially when I got this mortgage, I was like, fine, like I already pay my own rent, but I was happy that my house had a tenant, so based off of the previous owner. And I was like, the rental income that I would get from this tenant is going to offset my mortgage, and it offset my mortgage by half. So even though my monthly deductibles were 40% of my net pay, at least the rental income I was getting was cushioning half of the mortgage. So it was something. And I knew that eventually with time, I could charge more as years go by. You can increase your rentals, and it would eventually match the monthly deductions and even surpass that, where that my rental income was now even giving me like a surplus. And it was actual income that I was making. That was the dream on paper, and it just seemed like it made sense. And then on top of the rental income, with regards to living with a mortgage, initially when I got the mortgage, like I said, it was 40% of my net income back in 2019, like March of 2019. And 4 years later, via salary increments, or you could even be where you upgrade your job and the like, or you get a promotion and you're making more money, that fixed amount because when you sign up for that mortgage, there's a fixed amount that you're going to be paying for the next 10, 15, like whatever, how long the period is, like that amount is fixed unless interest rates go up and then your lending institution recalculates your mortgage. But most of the time, that stays the same. So you really feel that pinch in the beginning, but as time goes by, it starts to become a smaller percentage of your net income. So at first it was 40% of my salary, but now 4 years later, I kid you not, it's only 25% of my net pay. And in another 4 years, another 10 years, if I was still paying back for that long because of inflation and salary increments and the like, it would become maybe even like 2% of my salary. Like I won't even feel that deduction anymore. So that was another benefit that I was looking forward to, and why, this mortgage seemed like a good idea. Like I would feel it in the beginning, but eventually, I would stop feeling it. So now we move on to my experience as a landlady. So tenant number one, like I said, the previous owner already had a tenant in, and he was like, do you want to evict them and move in or find your own? I was like, no, like how are they? Like, are they good tenants? If they've been there, I think at the time they'd lived there for a couple of years, like from the time it was built and the like, I was like, no, like it's okay, like it's their home. And it was a family. It was a family of, of course, like a couple and their kids and the like. And I was like, no, it's fine. Like they can continue if you already have this relationship with them. Like I'll just carry on, but let them know that I'm the new owner and the like. So I had an excellent relationship. That's first 2019, like from March of 2019. Excellent relationship. I told everybody that I love my tenant. I was like, God bless my tenants. They don't give me problems. They pay on time. They communicate. Like everything is Gucci. Everything is fine. And then the next year, 2020 came. COVID hit. Everybody was affected. And unfortunately, because I think it was a 2-income household, like both the husband and the wife were working. I think one of them lost their jobs because of COVID. And things began to get tight. And you know how it was, like March, April, May, like there was so much uncertainty. Everybody was panicking. People's salaries were halved. Like there was a lot going on. And I was like, okay, fine, I need to be empathetic as well. So I was like, I will give my tenant 3 months just to like catch some breath. Like, I'll be kind for the, because he's been a very good tenant this entire time. So there was a month where he was late, and then again, and then again. And I was like, let me be chill, let me be calm. But then by the 4th month, I was like, okay, it's been 4 months now, and COVID is not going anywhere. Whatever situation we have found ourselves in is not going anywhere. So I think I feel like it's time to make a plan, because this is literally your accommodation. Like, it's not something, like, it's something that is serious, and 3 months is enough time to make a plan. So I began experiencing delays in 2020, and the relationship began to falter. So it ended up being a couple of days, and it would be a week, and then it would be 2 weeks. And something that I absolutely distaste as a person is when people fail to communicate properly. Like, I'm big on communication, and I would always tell my tenant, like, if you're going to be late, let me know. If you're going to be late by 2 weeks, let me know. If you haven't gotten your salary, like, if we're experiencing challenges, let me know, so I can plan. Because like I said, for me, this rental income was helping me offset my mortgage deduction. Like, I had no other secondary source of income apart from my salary. So I was like, fam, I depend, like I'm one of those hungry landlords, okay? Like, who depends on this money? So if you're going to be late, let me know so I can plan. Okay. And something about him, like, he was always apologetic. He'd always say sorry. He's like, no, sometimes the reason why I communicate because I don't know what to say. I feel so embarrassed. I'm like, but you keep saying that every month. And then sometimes, like, he would just leave me on red on WhatsApp, or he would temporarily block my phone number. Like, it used to aggravate me, and then it just became a thing. And I was now becoming like, I was becoming irritated. So that went on for like 6 months, 7 months. And it got to a point where, like, I was really, really irritated. I was like, you know what? I think I'm just, like, I'm going to give them notice and make another plan, because like I can't carry on like this. And then to their, like, just to be transparent, even on their end, when I bought the house, so it was built on an estate. But I realized that I mentioned that it was on an estate in my previous video, and I know an estate means different things in different countries, but from the context that I meant, an estate is like a ranch, or like a huge farming type of scenario. Okay, like a big open piece of land owned by one person, and then they create housing. You know what I mean? Whereas I realized that an estate, for example, in the UK is like, correct me if I'm wrong, it's like where it's like a high density building complex type of thing that has low income, like residents. So that's not what I meant by an estate. An estate in my context is like, like a huge ranch or sort of scenario where people then build like almost like a gated community type of thing, even though like it's not a gated community, but that sort of setup where one person or one initial owner or one initial builder and like built a whole bunch of homes, and then so it's like an estate that was once owned by one person, and then they like sell the homes out. So that's what I meant. So anyways, off of that premise, it was built on an estate by one person, and then he also put up water tanks around to service those homes, like when he initially built it. But you know how like the boreholes began to dry up, and the particular area he built his estate on like is really, really bad with water. So at first they had water and everything, it was chill, and then I would contribute towards the estate owner, because even though he sold the homes, he still low-key manages it, and you can call him for like other like supplementary things as homeowners in his area. So I was paying a fee towards like the water supply just to help maintain the tanks and everything. But then the water began to dry up, and then it stopped reaching it stopped entering the house, and then it became a situation where like it was only reaching the outside taps because of pressure. And then my tenants complained about this, and they're like, I will give them the absolute credit where like I messed up as a landlord, like a landlord or a landlady. I did not act upon that, because honestly I did not have the funds to deal with that. So I looked around, asked for quotations, and doing the whole water project was a minimum of like 30,000 kwacha. Just like putting a borehole on the property so that at least they had water, at least just for starters within the yard where they did, because it got to a point where they were now buying drums of water. By the way, if you live abroad, like this is not making any sense to you. But if you're Zambian, you know what I mean. So they're now buying water in drums, and they really complained about that, and they're like, please do something about it. Can we have water? But I was like, okay, let me give myself a couple of months to have this money to put the water up. So it was in the works. I was like, I will put water, but I'm like, if they're failing to pay me rentals, and obviously when I put up water, I will have to slightly increase the rentals. Like how are they going to manage that? So in the back of my mind, I was like, I'm going to have to give them notice and find somewhere else, because if they're failing to pay me this amount, what more if I increase it by like an extra 200 kwacha? Like it's not going to work out. So I had that in the back of my mind. And then two, when I met them and were signing our tenancy agreement, I gave them, like I put it in writing saying, we'll give each other 1 month's notice. If I need to give you notice to move out, or if you want to give me notice that you're moving out, it'll be 1 month. And when I tell you that they insisted that I increase the period, they're like, no, like 1 month is too short. We've lived here for so many years, and make it 3 months. I was like 3 months is a really long time. Like 3 months is too long. Like what if you get a job? Like if you are saying you have to give me 3 months, do you realize what that means? It means if you leave within the month, you have to pay me an extra 2 months as a penalty. Like, do you understand that? And they're like, no. Like obviously we do, but for us, we're thinking of it from a place where if you had to kick us out, like at least give us 3 months. So I was like, no, like 3 months is too long, but they insisted that I make it 2 months instead of 1. So I put 2 months in the lease, and we signed it, even though I was okay with 1. So now now you can fast forward. They've been dealing with me for almost 2 years. It was now the end of 2020, and I got a message. Like literally, I will never forget this. I think it was in November. Was it November or October? I get a message on a Thursday, and my tenant is like, we're moving out on Saturday. I just thought I should let you know. 2 days. I got 2 days notice. So I actually love saying they beat me to it, because I was going to evict them anyways. So they literally gave me 2 days notice. And they're like, the reason why we're moving out is because of water. Like we're moving to Lusaka, in fact, which is the capital city. Like we found a new home, so like we're out. And I was like, how do you give somebody 2 days notice? And they're like, no, but you've been complaining about water for a long time. It's something that you know. I'm like, you can complain about water, but you also have, like, this is a different thing. Like, you can't give somebody 2 days notice. Like, I would never give you 2 days notice, because I know that it's wrong. Like, why would I do that to you? So why are you doing that to me? And he was like, no, like, it's for 2 days. I'm like, do you realize that you owe me 2 months rent? Like, do you realize that you have to pay a penalty of 2 months rent? He's like, no, like, that's too long. Like, let's meet halfway, let's negotiate. And even though contractually, like, I could have insisted on the 2 months rent, I was like, you know what? I know, like, I've always thought 2 months was too much, so let's just make it 1 month. Okay, sure, no problem. Thank you very much. 1 month is fine. We shall pay that 1 month, penalty. So they move out, and I now go see the house and everything. And anyways, that's like something else. But it was a lot. Like when someone has lived in a house, there's always so much that you have to repair to prepare it for the next tenant. I had to fix so many things, and the tenancy agreement. Like I was like, so this was my first time dealing with, like a tenant, and I have lived in homes since, like, I have had landlords, and I've never had problems. Like every time I leave, like it's always cool beans. There's been no disputes, even though, like, anyways, no. But the 3 homes I lived in Chisamba, like, there were no disputes. Whenever I would leave, the landlord would just come to inspect, and they'll be like, it's fine, I'll leave, I'll get my security deposit back. Like, it was always minimal things, which even I agreed to fix, but I didn't, like, spoil a house or anything. But this house was lived in, okay? Because, like I said, it was a full family. There were just all sorts of things. And then I realized that going forward, I needed to be very specific in my tenancy agreement, and I hope you can learn from this as well. Make sure you indicate, like, people want to paint, they want to drill things, put their own fixtures. If someone is going to put fixtures in your house and drill into your wall, don't allow them to do that, and put it very specific, make it very specific in writing in your tenancy agreement that if you're going to drill anything into these walls or put up any fixtures, you are going to have to patch them up when you leave, because like you're literally spoiling somebody else's house. I never understood why people like to drill shit into houses that aren't theirs. I personally, like, I've never even mounted a TV on a rental property, so I don't know why people feel obligated to drill personalized shelves, like also like all over the place, and then like yank them out and leave. So that's what I was dealing with. There were so many holes and things that had been drilled in, which they ripped out, which they had put in when they moved out, and then of course they had to paint it. There were just so many like wardrobes, cupboard stuff that had been broken, or just like that I needed to fix. So anyways, I realized all of this. I was like, wow, like they really put the number on me with no notice. I now have to start looking for money to deal with this. And then two, there was no way I was going to get a tenant with a house that didn't have water. Like, so now by force, like I had to embark on this water project, which was going to be very expensive for me. Even though, like, of course I had planned to do it, but here we are, like I had to do it by force. So now, while I'm now planning all of these things, I reach out to the tenant. I'm like, you're supposed to pay me that 1 month's penalty fee. Like, what's happening? Don't they switch up on me, you guys? They're like, actually, like, we're not going to pay it. Like, we don't want to pay it. And I'm like, why? Like, first of all, like, I was even lenient enough because you breached the contract, which was 2 months. I gave you 1 month, and you're not even going to pay me that. And they're like, no, actually, we don't want to pay you that because we've been spending so much money buying water in drums, and I feel like it's just fair that you also, like, withhold, like just forget about that 1 month penalty, because even we've been spending money on a problem that we're complaining to you about. And I was like, the water problem is completely different from a tenancy agreement. By the way, the tenancy agreement that they signed specifically said that utility bills were up to them. Like, it wasn't up to me. Of course, ethically, I should just provide the house with water, but contractually, I was not obligated to, but anyways. So that was the first thing that they argued. And then two, like, I was ready to take them to the police and sue them or just something for that 1 month thing. But here's the catch. When I met them and said I was going to send the tenancy agreement, they agreed to the terms, and then I signed my copy and scanned it to them, but they never scanned their copy back to me that they signed. I hope that makes sense. They just agreed to it, and then they had my copy, but I was never proactive enough to get my signed copy. So even me going to the police was pointless. It was utterly pointless because I had no proof of that. And that's something that I've learned from this experience. Have paperwork, have a signed contract, be very specific about, termination conditions. So that is how that chapter ended with that tenant. And my first experience being a landlady. And also because of that, something else that I came to learn, and like I knew I was very immature and irresponsible on that front, is that, again, like I was just seeing the rental income as income itself. Like I wasn't leaving any provision to go towards maintenance and just stuff like that. And that's something that I would advise you to do. Like, even as you are getting rental income, keep even 25% of what your tenant is paying you to go towards fixing stuff here and there. Like, just have that, because things, like, you always get a phone call, something that's gotten spoiled, that is part of the structures that that you need to deal with. So though thankfully, like my tenant didn't really call me about a lot of things. I think they managed stuff themselves, but the main issue was the water thing. But of course that was but even just for small stuff, I learned from that first experience to do better. And with the second tenant, I do have that provision where if they call me saying this is spoiled or that is spoiled, I have like a small allowance set aside, or a small allocation set aside to go towards fixing these small things. Like don't just like chew everything, because like that's what I was doing. The money would come in like finished all the time. So you can do better on that front as well. I decided to I realized I was approaching 30 minutes. I was like, oh, let me cut this video and start again in case I lose footage, because that would make me cry. So yeah, that was the experience with the first tenant. So now we move on to, so this is now like, yeah, it was November of 2020, spilling into December. I had no tenant. So that was the first thing. So even though I would fight with him about late payments, at the very least, I was like, a full month wouldn't go by where I hadn't gotten my money. And I know other people have even worse experiences where like 3 months would go by and the tenant hasn't paid them. Like, there are people out there who just don't pay their rent. And I don't understand it, you guys. Like, I don't understand it, because I am someone who is afraid of homelessness. Like, I wouldn't sit and not have a plan for my rent, because that's the way some people move. Like how do some of you just sleep at night peacefully when the Javan pays your rent like that? Like that has never made sense to me. Like, I pay my rent on time. Again, maybe it's because I'm privileged enough to work for an employer where I have a secure salary that comes like on the dot every month on a specific date, so I'm able to pay on the same day. And again, like, that's you guys, that's the first thing I do before I do anything with my salary. Before, like, I won't even buy myself like a sweet, or like, as soon as my money comes in, my rent goes straight to my landlord instantly. And then I pay my utility bills, I pay my maid, I buy food, and then I'm left with like the miscellaneous. But like, rent is number one. So again, I don't understand how people just move. And that's something that used to baffle me with the first tenant. I'm like, you have a family, you have kids, like, this is a home. Like, why are you not afraid of homelessness? Obviously, you've gotten paid, because he was in full-time employment. Like, he was a working class person. Like, you have a salary, you know you have to pay for rent. I know you've gotten paid. So why haven't you prioritized your rent? Like, why have you done everything else and then just assume that rent is something that you can negotiate terms for? So I've never understand people who move like that. But anyways, what was I saying? Yes, so now I had no tenant. So I'd already lost that 2 pin. And boy, did I feel it, because I said I'm somebody who's paying for a mortgage. And then 2, the house was empty, and I didn't have anyone near me or near the house who could look out for the house. I needed to hire a caretaker to take care of the house, and I was going to have to pay him 900 kwacha per month to just keep the house safe and look out for it. So one, I've lost money in terms of rental income, and the rent that I was charging, because this is a small town, even though it was a 3-bedroom 2-bath, was 2,300 kwacha. Granted, it wasn't like an ultra modern house. It was a very solid structure. It had a yard space and everything, but the rent that I was charging was 2,300 kwacha. So I'm losing 2,300 kwacha, and on top of that, I have to pay a caretaker 900 kwacha. So I've lost like over 3 pin a month, like, all of a sudden. So I was stranded, you guys. Like, I was sick, I was ill, I was going through it, and I needed to find a tenant real quick. And then now I'm also dealing with a water project. So now let's move on to the water project. That area, like I said, the water tables had gone down, and I needed to sink a borehole. Now, the standard for these borehole companies, at least at the time in end of 2020, was 15,000 kwacha, and they drill up to 50 meters. And if they don't find water, like, it's a dry borehole, like, that's your problem. But if they do find water, or they have to go lower and the like, they charge you extra per meter that they have to go further. And because that place was so dry, the surveyor that I got to check, like, water points, which is something that you need to do, because there's a reason why people would even try and drill a borehole like 5, because a borehole would just show up and then drill. Like, they'll just drill anywhere in your yard, and if they don't find water, like, they're not going to refund you. So I went and found like a water siting person. If you're interested, let me know, and I will leave his number in the description box, because he did an excellent job of finding water. And I feel like you are better off paying that extra 2,000 or 3,000, having someone actually find a good point in your yard where the water is, as opposed to taking your chances with drilling companies and then ending up with a dry borehole. So I had to pay someone to do the water siting. He found the point, and he was realistic about it and said, you have to drill to 80 meters. So it was an extra 30 meters on top of the standard that comes with the standard fee for drilling companies. And he was like, even though I think we found water at 65 meters, but he was like, if you want a solid borehole that won't dry up in a year's time or during the hot season, drill up to, I think it was, drill up to 80 meters, or either 80 or 85. So drill up to 80 meters so that it's secure. So now, like I said, it's 15,000 up to 50 meters, but with these additional 30 meters, my bill from the borehole company and just other stuff, like you have to pay for like a borehole license. plus the water sighting guy, I think my bill came to like 33,000 kwacha, you guys. So I needed to pay 33,000 kwacha. That was the first thing. Two, my home, like I said, was in this open estate with like where someone built like 70 homes with no like wall fences, which I actually like. Like I like open spaces, but I knew that water was a problem in this area. There are so many people with like who didn't have water, and if you just put up a borehole and running taps, like people will come and steal. Like, so Zambia is not what I'm talking about. People will be coming in the middle of the night with buckets and stealing water from you. So I now had to put up a fence, but I couldn't even afford like a wall fence with brick. Like that would have been like at least 60 pin. So I just put like, as I called it, like chicken wires, like for a like chicken a chicken run. But I ended up putting up a wire fence and a gate just for the interim. And then I also asked like the person to plant some creepers, so at least it could be like a grass hedge type of wall fence scenario in the meantime, until sometime in the future when I could put up a wall fence that was more secure and everything. And even just that wire fence and the gate came to like an extra 20 pin, you guys. Like I said, I was sick and I had to put in all this money. And even after I was done, so like I said, 33 for the water, an extra 20 for the fence and the gate. And this wasn't even enough to put up like a water, like a stand, the actual tank, like a pump to pump the water up, the plumbing and pipes into the house. All of this was going to be like another 35,000 kwacha. And at that point, like the most I could do was just put up like a hand pump within the yard, so that at least my tenants or my future tenants don't have to buy water in drums, which is what people in that neighborhood were doing. Like at least the water was in the yard. And even that hand pump was like an extra, I think 8.5 to like 10 pin. Yeah. So my total bill came to 70. I think at the time I only had about 50 to 55. Like I had to get a soft loan from like my family, even just for the hand pump, which I paid them off later. And a couple of, like, all my money was gone. Like all my money was gone. And even that 50 came from like a different fund that was supposed to go towards buying a car. Like my money, like I was so broke, you guys. Like I've never been that broke before in my life. Like I was sick, like that, like where you're sick because of money. Like I was so poor. I used everything I had, like everything I had, whatever funding I had to get a car, it was gone. Like my leave days from work, I had to get some salary advances just to get it to a point where at least there was water in the house and I could have a tenant, you guys. Woo! So I finally have this water project, but then I realized that because there was no water in the house, the caliber, and then there was also more money that I had to do. Like I had to paint the house inside, I had to fix the cupboards, all those things that the tenants had yanked out. I had to patch all of that. It was, you guys, like it was a lot. So now, even despite all of that, like there was no water in the house. And you know how it is. Like first of all, even I wouldn't move it. Like I wouldn't want to move in a house where there's no water inside. Like why am I moving around with like buckets and drums? So the caliber of tenants that I could attract also went drastically down. And I also knew that even though I'd spent all this money and my previous tenant was paying 2,300 kwacha, I could not find a tenant who was willing to pay 2.3 or even 2.5. I had to take whatever somebody was willing to give. So I advertised, I tried realtors. Nobody wanted to move into a house that didn't have water in the inside. And I eventually found a tenant but he said he could only pay 2 pin. So now, let's move on to tenant number 2. Woo, you guys. So I'm wondering whether I should make a part 3 or just keep going. Thinking. Okay, let's see. If let me try and make this video at least less than an hour. If it surpasses an hour, then I'll make a part 3. But hopefully, I think now we're at 40 minutes. Let's see if I can wrap it up in the next 20 minutes. So now enters tenant number 2. So I got a phone call from the caretaker saying, oh, somebody walked by, they saw the house was vacant, they have an offer, but they said they can't afford 2.3, they can only pay 2 pin. At that point, I was like, I'm desperate. And this was like end of December. I think I hadn't had rentals for 2 months now. I just finished putting up like, what you might call, like the water and everything, and the hand pump. I was like, I'll take it. I'll take it. It's just a start. And then later on, when I finish these other things, complete the water project and all of that, like I would like I can, you know, either increase the rentals or just, yeah, I was like, for now, let me just take what I can get. So I meet my tenant. So my previous tenant, like I said, was working class, you know, he had an office job, etc, whatnot. My second tenant, or at the time he was a prospective person, he wasn't when I say, by the way, I hate it when people call people who can't speak English illiterate. Like, just because someone can't read in a particular language doesn't mean they're illiterate or speak. Like, they can they're still literate in their home, in like their home language, or like their mother tongue. So he wasn't really conversant. Maybe been saying it right in English. See, now I'm the illiterate one. So he couldn't really speak or, yeah, English well, but he could understand it. And then he also wasn't somebody who worked, because I wanted to like vet the next person, like, where do you work? Do you have a steady job? He was a small business owner. He specialized in, so he sold like he was into, so he sold potatoes at like one of the big like markets in the city. And was like, I don't know, you know, like I just sell potatoes. So me, who's like a bit, you know, of course I immediately profiled him because of, you know, like before you can catch yourself and your prejudices, like it just kicks in, and automatically I was like, oh, like, is he going to be someone who can afford to pay rent? But I was like, you know, like, let me not be stuck up. And I remember like discussing it with like my close friends, you know, like, and like my sisters, and like, you know what, like give this man a chance. Like, it's people who you might look down on who actually have like a lot of money, they always have cash flow. Like, he might end up being like a far better tenant than the other one who would be okay, now this is me being petty, but like, he always had like selfies of him in his office or just looking at, and I remember like looking at him as a landlord saying, like your rent is late, and there you are posing in an office in a suit, you haven't paid your rent. So anyways, people were like, no, like, just give this man a chance. Like, don't profile somebody just because, you know, like, he can't speak English doesn't mean that he can't pay his rent. Just because he deals with like farm produce doesn't mean that he isn't, you know, good for the money. I was like, you know what, let me go for it and give this man a chance. So I met him, I think it was like right like in between Christmas and New Year's, like that weekend of 2020, or that week of 2020 or something. So I was with my mom, like, she accompanied me. So when we met him, like I was with my mom. So we went through the house. He had already seen it, he liked it, he seemed excited, and I got the impression that this was an upgrade from where he was coming from. So I was lucky where somebody, like, to me, like the people that I was dealing with, they were like held to the no, I wouldn't want to move into a house with no water. For him, like, it seemed like it was an upgrade to him. Like, he was so happy moving into this house. So yeah, like, you know, it's just different levels. So I felt positive about the experience. But then the first red flag was that he went through the tenancy agreement. Again, I asked him, like, if you don't really understand what's going on, the whole English thing, go through with somebody who you know and trust, where they can explain everything to you if I'm not making sense to you. And like, and of course, like my mom helped me with like the nyanja and everything in case he was lost. Like, no, like, I've gone through it. But then he asked about, he's like, what is this? Like, what is a security deposit? So I explained to him what a security deposit is. And you guys, I am someone who in the past hated I was like, why do people make us pay security deposits? It's only until I experienced it from a landlord's perspective and all the things that I had to fix, that even though it doesn't come close to what you're going to spend to have the house ready for the next tenant, like, it just helps. Okay, it just helps. So this time I was like, oh, I understand what a security deposit is and why I need it. So I explained it to him, and he's like, oh, okay, no, that's fine, makes sense. But he was like, right now, I don't have the money for it, but maybe I can pay for it in installments. So can I just do like 500 kwacha over a 4-month period, even as I am paying my rentals, until like I clear it? And he was like, you know what, that's fair, that makes sense. Like, you know, be a good person, have good customer services. You know, someone is coming to you, that they seem very sincere. I was like, let me be nice, let me not be my usual self, let me be chill. I was like, you know what, that makes sense. So we signed the tenancy agreement, and then he was like, for now I will pay you 2 months upfront, and then going forward, I was like, please, I'm not somebody who wants you to pay me every 2 months or every 3 months. I know some other landlords are strict on that, but I was like, I know how the Zambian economy is. It's like, it's difficult even getting rentals monthly for some people. I'm not going to be rigid, pay me monthly. I don't want you to pay me every 2 months or 3 months. But I eventually understood why landlords want you to pay them every 3 months. So yeah, we signed the tenancy agreement. This time I was very intentional. I made sure he also signed, and I got my copy as well with his signature and everything. And he paid 2 months in advance. So that was January and February of 2020. I didn't have to deal with him. His next rentals were due in March. So March comes along, and like his rent is due. A couple of days go by. I'm like, hello. I know you paid for 2 months, but just a reminder that you owe me. And he was like, yeah. And I remember again, second red flag, when I would call him or text him to remind him about how his rent is due, and even how he said he was going to be paying me 500. By the way, the 500 was supposed to start end of January, and I didn't get it. I also didn't get it end of February. So by beginning of March, when his rent was due, I was like, plus you haven't paid me that 500 that you said you were going to be paying me. And he'd always talk to me like, no, don't worry. Don't worry, I'll send you something. And then he was talking to me in a tone as if he was doing me a favor, like, don't worry, like I'll send, like it was as if I was borrowing money from him. Like that's the tone he was using, and it was so confusing. I was like, what's going on here? So that's March. He was late, but he paid, and he only paid for the rent. And I'm like, what's going on with the security deposit? And he's like, no, don't worry. I'll help you out, and I'll send it when I can. So now I'm like, okay, like I think my patience and my nicety is beginning to like wear off. So now April comes. This is now our 4th month of being together, and I'm like, sir, as you are paying your April rent, make sure you pay the security deposit, because I think now like you're taking the piss. Of course, I didn't say you're taking the piss, but this time like I actually called. I was like, sir, as you are paying your rentals this month, you have to oblige to the security deposit, because now I feel like even that flexibility I gave you of paying me in installments, it's not going to happen. So I need to be firm. Just put it in your program that you were actually going to pay me the security deposit in full, like you should have in January. And he was like, no, I have so many problems. I said, no. Like those problems are not my problem. Like, you have an obligation, just do it. That's what I said, you guys. He's like, and he seemed like angry, but he said, where I was like, no, like I'm putting my foot down, do the right thing, because now we're entering the 4th month. That's how the phone call ended. Next thing I know, I'm getting this like this infamous VN. So I like the English, but the English language is very like it's not it's not that advanced. But I know in other languages, or just like my brief time in French class in high school, I know that there's a way in which, for most languages, when you're referring to an elder or someone who you don't know, there's a respectable way of referring to them versus a peer or someone who's younger than you, or just in a disrespectful manner, if that makes sense. So even just in local languages in Zambia, the Zambians don't know what I'm referring to. But if you don't speak Bemba or Nyanja, like most other languages, like for example, in French class, like I know if you're referring to a peer, you would say tu, and if you're referring to an elder or somebody who you don't know, you would say vous, right? Out of respect. So in the same way, like for like in Bemba, you can say iwe to your peer, or you can say imwe, like to someone who's older than you, or somebody who you just don't know, who you need to give a certain level of respect. So each time I would refer to my tenant, I would always say Ra, which is like Mr. Like I never ever referred to him. Like I gave my tenant respect. So now I get this voice message where like you guys, he raged. Like he was just like triggered, and he raged. He was just like, Yumba yako, like your house, iwe, ninga iwe, this is like, he was using that sort of tone with me as he was referring to me. Like he said all sorts of things, and I was so upset. Like I felt so disrespected. He's like, if I want, I can move out of this house. I don't like living with people who put me under pressure. I've told you I don't have money. Like, why are you harassing me? But he was saying this in Nyanja, you guys. Like he said a lot in that VN, and I said, it's an infamous VN. And I'm so glad he sent a VN, because nobody would believe me otherwise. So I now have this evidence. Like I was in shock, but then I'm also a very petty and immature person, and I live 2.5 hours away from that house. But I was just in a mental space where I could not believe somebody had spoken to me like that. Like I was like, if I was nearby, first of all, I was 2.5 hours away. Two, it was a weekday. If it was a weekend, I would have started off. Reached the house, and began removing things one by one, and just, like I would have evicted. Like I was in that headspace, so I was just like, get out. You can't talk to me like that. Just because I'm a woman, just because I'm young, just because of my physical demeanor, like I'm petite, get out. Like I was in that, like I felt so disrespected. So now, like I tell my mom, because yeah, she's like my wise oracle. So I explained the situation to her, and now she was just like, okay. And then I sent her the VN, and she's like, whoa. So she's like, calm down, don't do anything disrespectful as well, because she knows me. Like first of all, like me and my and the second tenant, like we met each other. We met each other, except he is like above me. Like I can't even say I met my match. Like he is above me with pettiness and immaturity. Like he's above me. So my mom calls like the tenant, and he was like, oh my gosh, like I've been looking for your phone number. I'm so glad you've called me. Because I think the time we met, he thought it was like a family home, and maybe I was just like this child who was receiving the money on me. But maybe he was confused, but he's like, oh my gosh, I've been looking for your phone number. Like I was hoping I could speak to you because your child harasses me. Your child is a bad person. She's not empathetic. I keep telling her I don't have money, and she wants me to be paying for things that I can't manage to pay for. And yeah, but he just said that I was harassing. And my mom was like, and again, I'm so glad I had that VN, because she was like, I've spoken to her, and yes, I hear your point. Maybe you may not have it, but at the end of the day, you do have an obligation. Plus, you said you're going to pay this money, so just, like honor it. I guess my mom is older and wiser. Like she's an older, like Zambian woman. Like she's very mature and very wise, unlike me. So she calmed him down, and for sure. So clearly, I am the problem. I am the drama. Maybe he was right that I harass him, because once he spoke to my mom, or maybe it's just a respecting. Like could rather hear it from someone who he respects than me. Literally, after my mom talked to him, I got the money. Like the message hit. And he was late by a week at that point. After, I don't know what my mom said to him, but I got my money. And I was so mad. I was like, you know what, it's okay. And then my mom spoke to me, and then she calmed me down, and she was like, forget about the security deposit. Like at this point, you know what you went through. If you lose this tenant, like you go back to paying for a caretaker, and you're not in a position yet to finish the water project. But basically, she calmed me down. Yeah, so I had to cut it again so that I wasn't losing footage. So that was my experience. So I went with that advice. I was just like, I would be kind, I would try to be empathetic, but I would have months where I'm like, oh, guys, like he's like there was never a single month where rent was just paid on time. And there'd be times where like I would message or call, and I'm like, hello, just a reminder. And literally, I have gotten, like I would get replies of I know, like I know the rent is due. And I remember this one time I asked, I was like, hello, following up on the rentals, and he was like, if I had the money, I would have sent it. Like, I kid you not, you guys. Like, yeah. Like, anyways, like my second tenant, like he has really added color to my life. Like I would even when we go our separate ways, like I would never forget him. Like he like he's added color to my life. Like he has been one of the best story times of my life. And just that tenant, he is a legend in the books for me. So, and then like I remember laughing because I would compare him to the first, like the first tenant at least would be very apologetic. Like even though he would be late, he would like soft block me for a couple of days. At least he would say sorry. There was some remorse. With the second one, he would act like he has nothing to lose. I remember telling my sisters like he acts like he has nothing to lose, even though homelessness is literally on the line for him. But he just gets triggered. He gets upset if I'm like But anyways, that was tenant number 2. And in case anybody's watching this, like, oh my days, like I can't believe you're talking like shit about your tenants. Like that's so childish of you. Yes, I am childish. I acknowledge that. But at the same time, like this is my side of the story. Like my tenants are more than free to expose me, because I know I'm a flawed person. Like I'm not coming here saying I'm innocent. They are more than, like, if they can start YouTube channels, they can expose me, they can do a whole Facebook post. They are free to tell their side of the story as well, because I'm sure they have something to say about me as well. but this is just like an honest story time of my experience. So I hope, you know, you can appreciate it. And it's just the truth. Like, I'm not shading anybody. Like, I'm just stating things as they were happening and the like. So yeah. let me see my notes. So yeah, in short, so that was, you know, like that's what 2021 was. Constantly, because he moved in beginning of 2021, like literally that, I think it was New Year's weekend. And we went from, you know, me being agitated. I realized that I was dealing with somebody who gets easily triggered, like he's temperamental even more than I am. I was like, you know what, I'll just take the high road. And then I also had to shift my mentality into me originally thinking that my rental payments would be offsetting my mortgage. Now, like, I just had to change my mindset and not make that rental income cover like compulsory bills that I had to pay or anything important that I had to pay for. That now moved into supplementary expenditure. So if there's something like serious that I needed to pay for every month, it was coming from my salary or what was left of my net pay. And then like whenever my tenant decides to pay money, that would now go to like extra or non-compulsory things that I had to pay for. So even that mind shift had to happen, just so like my blood pressure wasn't getting raised every month. But still, like I'll go through periods where like I'm so broke, like I'm like where you just have a bad month and you're like, sir, like when are you paying me the rent? So I still have months where I'm like, like get serious, pay me. And I remember there was the time where he got so upset and he lectured me because but at that point, like, I know not to like react, like I just take it. And he was like, I don't understand why you're like why can't you just be kind? Like, people don't have money all the time. And I remember telling him calmly, I'm like, the leniency that you want me to give you is leniency I can only give to somebody who say has paid their rent, like not even early, just on time. Like, if you pay your rent on time for 4 months and then 1 month you're late and you even tell me that you're going to be late, I don't think I'm somebody who'll be like, no, like it, make a plan and pay me. You have shown that, you know, this is just a one-off scenario. And of course I would be kind, I'll be empathetic. But the problem is you have never paid me on time. Every month, like, is a reminder. So how do you expect me to be empathetic? And then he said, like, he just continued to say, oh, but so it's that thing where like I'm used to it, but I've gotten to a point where I realized that one of us had to take the high road. I took the high road, and we'd have a far better relationship now where he's late a lot. I no longer get angry if he's late for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. I just get upset, like I rant and rave on the inside, but I don't express it. And then I also have forced myself to just show gratitude. Even when he's late, I say thank you, I have received it. And that has really, really improved our relationship. And I realized that I actually got a sorry. Like, I finally got I think there was a month where a week had gone by. I was like, hello, you know, what's happening? Following up on the rentals. And he explained that he had a problem and he was going to pay me like another week later. So I think it was over 2 weeks later, and then he paid me. And I, like there was no argument. I said, you know, thank you, I've received the rentals, and I did. And he was like, thank you as well, and sorry for the delay. Thank you for being patient. So I'm like, oh, I guess I am the drama. Like, sometimes, like, of course, it's still late constantly, but our relationship is far better now, where just because I took the high road and I showed, even though I was upset on the inside, the fact that I just showed patience and said thank you, he now is slowly beginning to show the remorse that I had expected in the beginning. Like, why does he never show remorse? Like, I'm slowly beginning to get it. So yeah, that is where the relationship with this particular tenant is. Of course, I'm working towards me finishing that water project, but it's not because I'm doing it for the next tenant. And that's why, like, I've kind of slowed down. Like, it's not even a priority anymore, because from my experience, again, I don't know what other people go through. I don't want to project on others and say, don't go down the route of being a landlord if you think your rental income will help you supplement your income or to be a secondary source of income. Based off of my experience, it's been an absolute fail. And if I went down the route of I want to improve the house so I can get more money for rental income, just what I spent in 2020 and part of 2021, you guys, like it was almost 70,000 or more. And if someone, like, if my tenant at this time, like his rent was at 2,000 kwacha. Do you realize that that's 3 years worth of rental income that hasn't even come to me at all? Like it's all gone towards, works. So it's not even supplementing or cushioning my mortgage repayments. Like there's nothing that I'm gaining from this rental income. I'm just spending more on this house. And I have to find some. So I have an extra 35 that I need to find to now connect water into the house. I would like to, so the house is only tiled with the bathrooms. Like that's why like I got the house for less than 500,000 kwacha. That was like, that had yard space. It was a solid house. It just didn't have like floor tiles. So of course it seemed like a bit ghetto, but even though it's a nice, like I'm still going to type it, it's still a nice house. It just didn't have floor tiles. So that was always something that I was going to do. And that itself is like another 100 to 150,000, because I also want to change the bathtubs. It already has wardrobes and like a pantry, but there's so many things that I want to fix. I also want to put up a wall fence. That would be like another like 70,000 or more. I want to have a motorized gate. I would like to put up my electric fence. Like there are so many things that I have to do, and rental income will never ever come close to covering that. It would literally take me, I think I did some projections, like even if I'm increasing rentals with each improvement, it would take me maybe even 8 to 10 years to get back the money that I will put into this house, because the rental income I'm putting in, sorry, the rental income that I can get is from a small town. So I will never be able to charge enough to supplement all of this. And now I understand why people are moving mad in Lusaka, but at the same time, it's not your tenant's fault, because people in Lusaka are also mad. Why are you charging, like just because you spent a lot of money building a house doesn't mean you should punish your tenant. The real investment is how much you can get if you resell that house. And that's the mistake that a lot of landlords make. You can't just like you can't start charging people for rent because you spend so much money and you want to make that back. No. Rental income is just something supplementary. Like why? Like renters in Osaka are mad. Don't punish. Like it's not the tenant's fault. The investment here is what the house is going to be in a couple of years when the value increases, and what you can get for reselling it, but not from rental income. So that's important, and that's why some people get it wrong, and that's why rent is mad in Osaka, because you feel like, oh my gosh, I spent so much money, I need to get it back. So I have realized that the whole rental income thing is a scam, at least for me. I don't know how other people live fabulous lives. Maybe 15 years or 10 years later, then I can actually start enjoying the rental income, where like I'm just sitting and maybe even the 5,000 is just coming to me, where I'm moving maybe like 500 kwacha or maybe even 1,000 a month going towards maintenance, and then like I'm just sitting and enjoying a 4,000. Like it will take me many years to get to that point where I'm just enjoying my rent. So for me, it was not an adequate investment with regards to rental income, and I hope that makes sense. And then 2, just my experience dealing with tenants, you guys. I am so disillusioned. And with my beloved right now, like I actually call him my beloved. With my beloved right now, I feel like he's he's the last tenant I'll ever have. The day he moves out, or the day I'm ready to move into the house, like that's it. Like after him, like right now he's just helping me keep the house, but I can't do it, you guys. I lack the patience, I lack the empathy, and being self-aware, and I don't think I'll ever change. I don't have that heart, as Zambians say, I don't have the heart to feel for people, and understand their problems. I'm just like, do the right thing, or like meet your obligation. So it hasn't been a great experience for me. I don't have the customer services skills to deal with a third situation. Like for now, I'm just like, no, tenants aren't for me. Being a landlady isn't for me. I'm either going to move into the house, or I will sell it one day to now build the actual home that I want to live in as my own, and my dream home. Like it will help pay for that. Or if I decide to keep it and build my own home with other funds, it would just be like a second house. I might put a relative or somebody in there, but like I'm not keeping that house for the sake of having a tenant and dealing with tenants, and that is not the plan for me. And yeah, on my days, look at us, we've come to the end of the video. I know it's over an hour. Hopefully somebody watches this. I know I said I might make a part 3, but you know what? Even if I make a part 3, like people, like if you didn't watch this video to the end, there's no point in making a part 3. So for those who love long videos and you've come to the end, I hope it was useful. Susan, you asked for this. I've literally sat here and attacked people with 2-hour videos because of you. So I hope you enjoyed it because you made me do this. But yeah, if anybody else found this helpful or useful, yeah, it is what it is. That has been my experience. And yeah, that ends my story times. If anything comes up, maybe I'll do a story time. I feel like I might also do a story time of my first car, because yeah, that also happened in 2020 was such a crazy year. I remember talking about how rough the year had been for me, but it wasn't just COVID. Like, so much was going on in my life in 2020. I was hanging on by a thread, and it was outside of COVID. Of course, COVID was very sad, but there was just so much more going on. And I also have a car story, which I think I need to like replenish energy for to tell you, but I will end this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you around either in the next one. It might be a hair video if I have some time next weekend, because this weekend is done. Like, I'm not filming anymore. It might even be the next video. I might tell you about my first car experience. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you guys, and yeah, I'll see you around.